In our prayer time this morning, I had meant to mention Martha Dolben, Barbara Harris's daughter. She's returned to Uganda to continue her important work with women's educational issues in Uganda. So let's all keep Martha in our thoughts and prayers this week as well. Our gospel reading this morning comes from the 21st chapter of Luke's gospel, beginning at verse 5 and continuing through verse 19. Luke 21. When some people were speaking about the temple, how it was adorned with beautiful stones and gifts dedicated to God, Jesus said, "As for these things that you see, the days will come when not one stone will be left upon another, all will be thrown down." They asked him, "Teacher, when will this be? And what will be the sign that this is about to take place?" Jesus said, "Beware that you are not led astray, for many will come in my name and say, 'I am he.' The time is near. Do not go after them. When you hear rumors of wars and insurrections, do not be terrified, for these things must take place first, but the end will not follow immediately." Then he said to them, "Nation will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes and in various places famines and plagues, and there will be dreadful signs from heaven. But before all this occurs, they will arrest you, persecute you. They will hand you over to synagogues and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors because of my name. This will give you an opportunity to testify. So make up your minds not to prepare your defense in advance. For I will give you words and wisdom that none of your opponents will be able to withstand or contradict. You will be betrayed even by parents and brothers, by relatives and friends, and some will be put to death. You will be hated by all because of my name, yet not a hair of your head will perish. By your endurance, you will gain your souls." Here ends the reading. I mentioned in my weekly email that I had hoped to write the sermon before the election. I wanted at least to seem objective. But I got busy and didn't get around to the sermon until Wednesday, so here goes. At just past 1 o'clock on Wednesday morning, I was jolted wide awake. Now, I'd stayed up late for me, 10:30. That's late for me, before I powered down my iPad and went to bed. At 1 o'clock when I woke up, I reached over to see if Cindy was there, and she was still downstairs watching the election results. I grabbed my iPad, put on my glasses, and went to the thinking room. Trump victory likely flashed one message on the screen. Global markets plunge, another message read. A couple of minutes later, I was back in bed. A few restless hours later, at 4 o'clock, I was on the treadmill doing my 9-mile morning run, watching the news. By 6 o'clock, I was safely parked at my desk, ready for the day's events. By 7, I'd received about 10 emails from some of you. By about 9 o'clock, I'd already answered the phone twice. People calling in great distress. How could this have happened? What are we going to do? Now, while all that was going on, I was opening other emails from people who were tickled pink. Finally, Michael, we have our country back. This is a great day. I thought back to that message at 1 o'clock on my iPad. Global financial markets plunge. Of course, later in the day, they rallied. But throughout the day, I read other articles that suggested the end of the world was upon us. This is the worst thing, more than one author declared. This is the worst thing to ever happen. Now, I'm not the smartest person around, but I'm pretty sure that had the results turned out differently, those who were elated would have been every bit as despondent and would have voiced their predictions that the world is coming to end. So let's be clear. No side has a monopoly on overreacting. Last Sunday night, right after Steve and Donna's wedding, I went home and I do what I do every Sunday evening. I read the gospel passage for the following Sunday morning, the one I just read from Luke 21. And when I did, I reacted like I frequently do when I read one of those end-time texts that seem to lace their way through the Bible. Not one stone will be left, wars and rumors of war. And I muttered to myself as I read those familiar words, not again. Not another one of these gloomy apocalyptic texts that suggest the world's end is imminent. Everything is unraveling. So Wednesday, as some were voicing their laments, predicting the end of the Western world, that's what I heard from a couple of sources, it dawned on me Wednesday that as far back as we can go in written history, people have been predicting the end of the world. When things look bleak, lots of us lose all perspective. This pessimistic outlook must be endemic to the human condition. But here's what I wonder. I wonder if there isn't a better way to respond when things don't go like we might be expecting them to go. I wonder if we would put on our big boy and big girl pants. We might realize that moments like these offer a gift. Oh, sure, we can gloat, or we can be angry, we can keep calling each other names, or perhaps we might do something more constructive. Now, for those who think this is the worst thing that ever happened, let me remind all of us that our country endured a bloody civil war. For the first 144 years of this nation's existence, women couldn't vote. Then there were those two little wars, sandwiched between them the Great Depression, 9/11, and lots of things that were less than desirable. So, let's all take a deep breath. And then think about this. In this very room, where we share so much in common, where we have gathered too many times with broken hearts when loved ones died too soon, and other occasions this very room has been filled with unbounded joy. As young couples, or in Steve and Donna's case, not so young couples, have committed their lives to each other. And still other times we've gathered around the font, celebrating and pledging our love and support as a young mom or dad brought their little one here to be baptized. This sacred place has witnessed all of that and more. And yet, half of us this morning are elated, and half of us are devastated. And yet we choose to do today what we do every other Sunday. We roll up our sleeves, we worship together, and we commit ourselves to working together. Because we believe that if we do those things, tomorrow will be a little bit better than if we didn't. Places like this can hold these deep divisions and tension without succumbing to vitriol. For here we allow ourselves to see good in those we might otherwise demonize. If you voted for Donald Trump, I assume you deeply loathe his statements of bigotry and hate. And if you voted for Hillary Clinton, I assume with all my heart you don't believe that half of the nation is a basket of deplorables. Regardless of what you think about President Obama, he was spot on Wednesday when he said, now everyone is sad when their side loses an election, but the day after we have to remember that we're actually on the same team. This is an intramural scrimmage. We're not Democrats first, we're not Republicans first, we're Americans first, patriots first. We all want what's best for our country. I hope that's true. It's what I choose to believe. We all want what's best for our country, especially for our children's children. And to get there, I need to be willing to compromise on some things, and so do others. If we are to survive and thrive, we must learn to hold these divisions with compassion. All of us are stakeholders in this great experiment called American democracy. We need to learn to listen to each other without fear. And if we do that, we will discover that we share lots in common. Not everything, of course, but that's okay. And we need to stop scapegoating and demonizing, whether it's the immigrant or just someone who thinks differently than we do. We need to hold what we believe and know with conviction while we're willing to allow others the same space to do the same thing. Every once in a while, I'll hear a couple say, "We never fight. We never argue." Whenever I hear that, I want to gag. I want to vomit all over them. How utterly sad and shallow. There is nothing wrong with a good fight. Nothing wrong with a good, honest debate. Life, someone has written, life in a democracy is gritty and imperfect, and we are often conflicted and torn by what to do. But those differences can, if we are willing, become grist for democracy's mill, and they can lead us to better ideas than might have been possible if we didn't duke it out civilly and respectfully. All of us need to probe more, to ask more questions, to question everything, to think and to really think, not just to assume that what we're being told is true, but to question everything. And then we need to explore perspectives that we hadn't considered before, to try from time to time to see things from another's shoes or vantage point. Here's a question. When was the last time you changed your mind on something of significance? And if it's been since the Truman administration, shame on you. Parker Palmer is a beautiful, wonderful, gentle human being and a thoughtful, insightful writer. But he suggests we need two things today: chutzpah and humility. By chutzpah, he writes, I mean knowing that I have a voice that needs to be heard, and I have the right to speak it. Too many people in our country feel they don't have a voice. So we need to discover chutzpah. But chutzpah needs to be married to humility. And by humility, Parker says, I mean accepting the fact that my truth is always partial and may not be true at all. So I need to listen with openness and respect. Every single religious tradition in the world agrees at its best on this, that we are all in this together. My welfare is integrally wrapped around your welfare. I appreciate the insight of a 13th century Persian poet who wrote these wonderful words. Out of a great need, we are all holding hands and climbing. Not loving is letting go. Listen, the terrain around here is far too dangerous for that. Not loving is letting go. We can't do that, for we're all in this together. And these are trying times. Together we will rise or fall. And this is no time to be egged on by the hucksters of hate who can manipulate us like we are one of Pavlov's dogs as they peddle fear like there's no tomorrow. I'll close with these familiar words. Words as important today as they were when President Lincoln first spoke them 155 years ago as he closed his first inaugural address. Mr. Colby? We are not enemies, but friends. We must not be enemies. Though passion may have strained, it must not break our bond of affection. The mystic cords of memory stretching from every battlefield and patriot grave to every living heart and hearthstone all over this broad land will yet swell the chorus of the Union when again touched, as surely they will be, by the better angels of our nature.